get a chance to like stop shaking, is my favorite person in the entire universe. I first met her here at Malvern Books, but I like got to know her because we take pictures of people under the sign, and I was like, that's gonna be my new best friend in about a year. So, and it happened. But really, this is a real story. I first met Schandra last summer. It was late night. I had a date with my television and a tub of cookie dough, chocolate chip ice cream, because duh, ice cream. I was watching MTV's Daria, because it's the best show in the world. And what else would a spunky brunette in the midst of an existential crisis be doing on a summer night? So, anyway, while I was trying to make out the cookie dough chunks in my ice cream beneath the dim blue light of the television, I noticed that Schandra Madha had crawled out of the screen. I quickly took a liking to her and her dry humor, and even though she was animated and kind of pixelated at first, as our friendship grew and our awesomeness expanded, Chandra's hard lines softened and she began to blend into the natural world with ease. And now she's here, and she's ready to read for us tonight. So give it up for Schandra.
True story. I'm going to read a couple of flash fiction pieces and a couple of poems, and hopefully they resonate with you. The first one's called Wood Rot. There was once a little maple leaf high in a maple tree. The roots of her tree stretched deep and far and shared the earth with many others, a willow here, a birch there, a few pines and an oak. The maple leaf clung delicately to her twig, her own tiny special place on the great maple. Though she was but fragile foliage, she found strength in the stoutness of her tree, and though she was but a young bud, she felt history in its ancient rings. She was one of many leaves on the maple tree, and for a time they swayed together as one shared life in gentle breezes and warm light. The little maple leaf believed that the warmth and rhythm would last forever, until one day when the wind was high, she felt a change in the sway. Soon the clement breeze broke to sudden gusts and blustering currents. The maple tree shivered and shook. The little leaf was surprised to find her fellow maple leaves had all turned red. Was she, the tiny leaflet, the only one still green? Then the strongest gust of all shot through the maple tree. The reddened leaves, wrenched in all directions, thrashed against the maple leaf. Though she clutched and clung with all her might through the stinging and lashing, she could not keep hold of her twig. One flurry forced her far above the tree line, another shot her past the weeping willow, the third sent her spiraling down and around until she finally crashed into the cold, damp earth below her maple tree. That's an interesting name. The barista is staring at my credit card. Where's it from? I reply with an empty smile and take my coffee to a table in the back. I don't know where my name comes from. The cafe is full, but no one is familiar. I'm trying to remember the last time I saw my family when I choke on my coffee. It smells stale, like wet earth. The little maple leaf was roused by the stench of detritus. There were other fallen leaves around her, hundreds, thousands, millions, but she could not be sure from which tree they fell. And then the little leaf asked, if I am not upon the maple tree, am I still a maple leaf? The Unnatural Child. Once upon 1982, far away in Fort Worth, a lonely witch made a paper fairy and called her Tiny T. The witch worried Tiny T would be lonely just like her, so she molded two mud baby brothers for her fragile fairy. As time passed and her children grew, the lonely witch was still lonely, and her plaything children amused her less and less. They cried, began to speak, they were always hungry. The lonely witch left Tiny T to care for her mud baby brothers for hours, even days, all alone in their ticky-tacky cave. Tiny T loved her mud baby brothers, though they ripped and dirtied her paper-thin skin. The lonely witch would leave for so long, the mud babies began to call their sister Mama. But Tiny T was too tiny to earn money to buy food, and the children began to shrivel, so the lonely witch left them in the back of a hardware store for someone else to feed. Tiny T and her mud baby brothers were rescued by social workers riding brilliant white minivans. The mud babies, being younger, were taken up quickly by two human families that lived on opposite ends of the land. But poor old Tiny T, for 5 was old in human years, spent a year locked in a foster dungeon wondering where her mud babies had gone. And then one day, a knight in Air Force armor whisked Tiny T away to his prefab castle where his fair lady and son, a boy of Tiny T's age, lived. Although Tiny T finally had a family, the knight wanted her to be human just like them, so he cut off her paper wings and brushed straight her pencil shaving hair. Tiny T became Marie, but she could not forget her mud babies. A year passed, and the knight and his wife bore a new human baby who came plump, pale, and perfect. They called her Moonchild. Marie saw the little moon baby and remembered so painfully her mud babies. Unsatisfied with being merely a sister, Marie longed to have Moonchild as her own. This child could surely fill the hole her mud babies left in her crackle paper heart. With her family enraptured by the new child, Marie was lonelier than ever. A photograph was taken of Moonchild on the day she was born, and Marie tried to scrawl her name over the baby's likeness. She had written her name on the insides of shoes, on soccer balls, and toys. The magic had made these things hers forever. It must be the same with babies. But Marie's red Bic pen ran out of ink before she could finish. The spell did not take hold. Marie was never very good at being human. It only got harder as she got older. Her human flesh pimpled, she pulled out her hair. Only gremlins and trolls liked her, so all her friends were gremlins and trolls. She could not finish school. She took toadstools and tonics, smoked strange plants, trying to remember what it was like to be a fairy. She stole Moonchild's inhaler because it made her feel once more, just for a moment, the lightness of paper. Moonchild grew too old to remind Marie of her mud babies. Eventually, Marie began to make her own human babies. First 1, then 2 more, a 4th, until there were 5. But even a dozen human babies could not replace her mud babies. She smoked more, drank more, hoping to change her human babies' shapes in her mind. But they grew ever older, hungrier, more talkative. They cried, needed food, they shriveled, so she left them for someone else to feed. It only gets shorter from here.
Thank you.
Boys will be men. Give her a hug and say sorry. It's preschool, and there's a little boy with a boy blue blanket dangling from his meat hand fist. He manages to pluck the thumb from his other meat hand out of his mouth just long enough to mumble 2 syllables of what would be an apology had he known what that meant. His squishy arms wrap around her shoulders, his fingers, his blanket reek of stale saliva. 2 minutes ago, he punched her hard in the arm. Then he bit her, not hard enough to draw blood, just hard enough to draw tears. Not the first time this daily ritual. It means he likes you. Observe the mating ritual of the 5-year-old. Next day, he hits her, he bites her, she cries. Teacher tells him, hug her, say sorry. Repeat, next day, repeat. Boys will be boys. Did you do something to him first? It just means he likes you. All 5-year-olds grow to a mature mating age. They will live together, observe the mating ritual of the adult humans. Now when he hits her, when he bites her, he draws blood. Later he fucks her, says sorry. His fingers, the blanket, reek of stale alcohol. Repeat, when he hits her, she knows it means he loves me. But it's preschool again, and her mother has noticed the bruises and the bite marks before mature mating age. Boys will be boys, they tell her. His mother is a teacher here. The little girl is so ashamed that mommy has to find her a new school. Witch's broom.
That's nice.
Sweep, he says. Just fucking sweep. You wobble, not at the knees, but from the heels, that spot mommy must have missed. Spyro gyro around an axis like those hand-me-down toys that promise they wobble but don't fall down. You are less sure. As with all things, all people, this broom is taller than you. Those sidewalk chalk fingers barely meet around it. It is a stake he could burn you on. But it's not the broom that scares you. You'd fly it away from here if you knew where to find the magic. Sweep, he says. Just fucking sweep. Don't you know what you're doing wrong? Brother tries to tell you with a kind of frustration. But the filth just gets spread around, bristles scraping the floor in directions of conflict. Sweep, fucking sweep. The mess multiplies as it divides, doing math better than you can. Someday, when you drop calculus, you will still be dreadful at sweeping. Hold it flush, she says, just like that. When mommy sweeps, you wield the dustpan. She brushes her pixie hill of dust into the pan until it becomes nothing but a line along the lid. Pull back, she says, an inch, she sweeps. Pull back, an inch, she sweeps. The line is halved and halved into invisibility. and you think I've found the magic. Okay, these last ones are poems, so they'll be very short. Apocryphal anthroponymy. Lunar goddess condescended to an anglicized mask, daughter of gale force and the father of nations, who would later trade his given for profit, and said the family is a friend to God in a language not our own, lover to the questioning angel who is like God, more Saturnine than Venusian, her planets unaligned, she is dark as ash eternal, as brimstone she scaled, both in form and metaphor. I imagine her, my deity, mono-atheistic, on a pedestal too tall to reach, my heroine within, post-Madonna, ever slender prima donna, with a grace too fragile to achieve escape velocity. In a sometime soon, infinitesimal to the life-death of a star, even she will slip and stretch into the event horizon of the grave. Your pain is here. Your pain is here, Marquez says, the doctor says to the exiled ex-president of some place in the Caribbean. The doctor is pointing to a point on an X-ray, a backlit hollowness the exiled ex-president cannot feel. His pain is improbable, devious, and surely more than two-dimensional black and white. My pain is invisible, deceitful. My pain is here in shades of gray, not in high-colored, high-resolution fiber optic colonoscopy snaps. My pain is I'm sick, but you don't look sick. It ulcers under layers cutaneous, fatty, fibrous, false. Although in strictest terms, all pain is here, says the doctor, touching his temple, when a temple is all I want to be. This is the last one, I promise. The peanut butter test. 5 simple steps for Alzheimer's disease early detection at home. 1. Apply blindfold and plug her left nostril. 2. Approach her with a tablespoon of peanut butter. 3. When she detects the smell of peanut butter, measure the distance in centimeters between her right nostril and the peanut butter. 4. Move the plug to her right nostril and repeat previous steps with her left nostril. 5. If the recorded distance between the peanut butter and the right nostril is longer than that of the left nostril, she has Alzheimer's. Father's father, when I remove the blindfold, will you remember me? Do you even know the smell of peanut butter, pure odorant or not? Not on Pakistani billiards hall menus, not in tin lunchboxes in your hardware store in Burma. The only places you've been to are those you remember. Others don't exist. Yes, Dada, I am going to be a doctor, which was true when last I saw you. I could have saved you with peanut butter. No beta, Auntie would say. It's dementia, don't you know the difference? Dada, who needs MRIs, CT scans, cognitive ability tests performed by medical professionals when there's peanut butter? Cover your left nostril. Tell me when you smell earth on cut pine. Mother's mother, still 6 feet above, lesbian, German-blooded, double mastectomy surviving, silver pixie cut Paula Bunyan poet of a woman. Close your eyes. Cover your left nostril. Tell me when you smell. She slaps the spoon out of my hand and tells me I can keep writing about my family until I've recovered from my childhood, which means I will keep writing about my family.